That's not what I wanted to do.
A few more people will come on in, and welcome to our second in recent years community meeting. So this is a meeting in which we are focused on community concerns. For the last several years, we've been kind of combining our board meeting with the community meeting, and it didn't give anyone quite enough oomph. So we decided, because it kind of shortcut the time that we had for community concerns, but also it didn't always give us time to conduct the board business that we need to do. So instead, we're doing this new format. We're trying it out. A lot of you I see were here last time for the candidate forum and introduction into District 3. So that was a great session. Those people learned a lot. So Chris is the chair of the Neighborhood Association, the Roseway Neighborhood Association, and we've got a number of board members present. And we're kind of late by here. We had a last minute change in availability. And so in particular, the board is very busy with a lot of things. And so we're actually shuffling down the agenda a bit to start with the public safety concerns we've been hearing from neighbors, especially around Wellington Park. And, you know, hear from neighbors about your concerns, and then hear from Lieutenant Ron Mason about Portland Police Bureau's response, what they can do, and what we can do as a community. So we will start with that shortly, and then after that, we will have several Portland Bureau of Transportation presentations with hopefully ample time for getting your questions answered, and we're going to try to answer those questions both in person here and on Zoom as best we can with the time that we have. So thank you for the patience with the change in agenda here. And then we'll end with the last half hour will be where we'll hear other neighborhood voices and concerns that may not match these topics that we have today. And then we'll have a brief update from the Roseway Parkway Committee, and that'll be somewhat related to, or very much related to, one of the PBOT presentations as well. So thank you all for joining. And first of all, even though we're trying to keep it very brief at the beginning here, can our board members stand, just so people know the great folks that are devoting their time to being on the Roseway Neighborhood Association. A few back there. Some of us have these t-shirts as well, and so feel free to grab us if you have any questions. And Aaron, in particular, is going to be by there, perhaps with others, to help answer questions about the neighborhood and the neighborhood association. So, welcome. I do, Ash mentioned that we're going to have an English. There's somebody who wanted a Spanish translation as well. So let me ask loudly, is there anybody who needs English captions here, or can we leave the Spanish captions up? Okay, it sounds like Spanish captions are good. We've previewed the agenda. I'm just going to say really briefly our meeting ground rules, which I think are generally pretty common sense, but just as we're doing the Q&A portion, just listen with an open mind, think before speaking, avoid exclusionary language, request nonviolent communication if necessary, let everyone participate, show up on time and prepared, and stay present, contribute to the meeting's goals, stay on point and on time. And that's a challenge when we've got so many people who are going to have great input, and attack the problem, not the person. And this is more for board concerns, close decisions and follow up and report outcomes. And we'll be reporting the outcomes here. And so we've got some additional ones for Zoom participants. And so that was pasted into the Zoom chat. So just wanted to go over that real briefly. Any questions about the agenda or the meeting ground rules before we continue? Couple around here. And yeah, forgive me while we also adjust some things. This is also our second time in the space. We had to adjust a little bit on the AV situation. We have one working mic So we may be kind of dancing around a little bit between the person presenting and then the people who have questions from the group here. And then we'll also be turning on audio when if somebody on Zoom would like to say something. So with that in mind, just the only last thing here is that the Roseway Neighborhood Association is just a group of volunteers from the neighborhood who are inspired and passionate about doing great things for our community. So especially coming out of COVID pandemic, people were really yearning to get together and connect. And so we've been very focused lately on events to bring people together, and then in service of the neighborhood, helping low-income families through donations through the public schools here, and just doing whatever work we feel will help the neighborhood and make it a more thriving place to work, live, and play. So that's our goal here. It is a volunteer organization. We're always looking for more people to be involved, whether it be on the board, and we do have board vacancies, or through other means. We have a number of friends of the board and neighbors who contribute in ways that aren't necessarily being board members. We can talk with you more one-on-one about that. Yeah, thank you all for coming and for being involved in the neighborhood enough to come here on a beautiful Tuesday evening. It is Tuesday. With that, we're going to launch right in to respect the police officer's time. And so let's launch right in. Calvin, are you here to kind of kick off and talk about the recent shots fired around Wellington? And yeah, feel free to come on up, and you can hold the mic or leave it in the stand.
Hi, everybody, my name is Calvin Bear. I live down on 67th Mason. Really close. Yeah, 3 months ago, maybe starting about the new year, lots of gunfire going off in the neighborhood. We reached out to Portland Police. They were kind enough to come out a month or two ago and meet with us and hear us out for a better part of an hour. And their presence here is a continuation of that discussion. They gave us some things that we can do on our corner. They're gracious enough to station some patrol cars, increase some patrols and police presence. I don't think we've had any gunfire since. Correlation is not even causation, but it was really nice to see a response. So I'm very grateful they came out, and I hope we'll all be respectful of their time and their presence and what they do for us, and hear them out and save the questions till the end. Yeah.
However you feel comfortable. Okay.
Sergeant Mike Chapman, Portland Police Bureau. Got involved with it again, and Calvin reached out, and it sounded like there was a voice that needed to be heard from the Neighborhood Association. So I was active at the time, and made the time and effort to come with Calvin and the neighbors about what was going on in the area, specifically Wellington Park. So I'm glad that line of communication got open. I took a look at your guys' Neighborhood Association website yesterday, read through it before coming to this meeting. And I have to say, this is probably one of the most involved neighborhood associations. So between the projects you guys are doing and the emphasis you're putting on your community, it's very excellent to see. It makes you guys a great working partners. Thank you.
I'm Ron Mason. I'm a lieutenant at North Precinct in an afternoon shift. I've been a police officer for about 32 years and 23 of the last year in Portland. This is definitely, I'll echo Mike's sentiments. I've been to a dozen meetings in the last 6 months, and I have not seen near this kind of a turnout. Usually it's anywhere from 8 to maybe 20 people, so this is fantastic. And having yourselves involved and plugged in and wanting to hear what's going on and being able to let us know what's going on, because we're not everywhere at all times, is fantastic. Just to give you a little background, North Precinct right now is staffed with 74 officers, for the entire precinct. That's for all 3 shifts for 7 days a week. When I was at North Precinct about 3 to 4 years ago, we were at, I believe, 110, 112 officers. So I would like to say we are near the slump and we'll be going back up, but there's going to be a few more bumps in the road before it gets better. So we are fighting for bodies to be able to put out on the street for shifts. Just to give you an idea, at times, we will be at minimum staffing, which for afternoon shift is 19 officers. Today, we were able to put out 14. Yesterday, or a couple days ago, I think it was like last Saturday or Sunday, we had 10. So, or excuse me, 9. So, it's difficult staffing between vacations, sick time, and folks just working other overtime assignments and trying to get bodies on the street is difficult. However, I'm a police officer, so I'm not normally an optimistic person. However, I do think there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a good light. So I think in the next couple of years, things will start to get better. But it has been very challenging trying to hire police officers and get them in and get them trained. And it takes about 12 to 16 months before they're out on their own in a patrol car, doing work by themselves. So those are some of the challenges we deal with, but also we need you folks to report crime. There may or may not be something that we can do about it, depending on the type of crime it is, the time of day it is. But those things count when we're looking at the scope of what's going on in the precinct, because your neighborhood is fighting against all the other neighborhoods for police resources. And we have to address the crime where we can put our best efforts forward to make the biggest impact. So Mike coming out here a month ago, talking with you folks about what was going on at the time with the shootings, and now there's been a decent run of no shootings. That's fantastic. But we put together missions as we can to be able to address hotspot areas. And sometimes that's over in St. John's, sometimes it's in Park Row, sometimes it's your area, other areas, Lloyd Center district, Lloyd district down the road. So the more that if you have a bike stolen, if there's an assault in progress, if there's a stolen car, if there is a shots being fired, if you report those, we may or may not be able to do something about it and we'll solve the crime, but we're able to ensure that it's happening, and then that goes into resources, more staffing, and also where we need to put efforts, the limited resources we have, of where we can put those efforts.
Car passing, potentially shooting out the window to an actual shooting scene where we have suspects and evidence that are recovered. So 11 for the whole entire neighborhood association puts you guys in the bottom 10% citywide numbers of shootings. So all in all, you guys have a very safe neighborhood association compared. I would say that the one problem point I could see coming out from the association is just that greenway. And if you guys ever just kind of gave up ownership of it and let it go to pot, you can see that brings some issues, but that is definitely not what's going on here in this association with all the projects you guys are going on that greenway and all that attention you're giving it. So I think you guys are combating up front what could be your most problematic area and you're taking right. So that's good to see. Open up for questions.
Yeah, real quick before you do that, can you guys step on this side, just closer to the camera? We're having some hard time getting the audio to see you guys, and then folks on Zoom want to be able to see you. So just, can you stand closer to this side, please? Thank you.
Actually, at the risk of changing two things at once, if you can try this mic, that's projecting more from here.
Oh,
Hopefully
perfect.
we'll-
That will help
we'll
too.
pick
Yeah.
up on that better.
Sorry, I'm just like corresponding. Some people can't hear you.
Figure
and
it
see
out.
you. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
So, yeah, maybe I'll just check in and then open it up for questions. So, yeah, well, some of the things that precipitated this was, some shots fired just south of Wellington Park, some concerns with, just speeding by and shootings. We do recognize there've been other events like, the people who went through Rocky Butte, firing and then through the neighborhood here as well. It's good to know that I guess we're a relatively safe neighborhood, but still obviously cause for concern. One of the things I wanted to point out is that we do have brochures at the table as you entered with 311 information. So for most of these cases where there's not an actual crime in progress, 311 is your best way to get a hold of the right resources, including, if I understand right, non-emergency police contact.
I know 311 is for city resources. Is that?
I think 311 is probably more appropriate for reporting camping issues or livability issues or things like that might be going on, but certainly if you've heard shots being fired. Emergency is fine, 911. If it was 2 hours ago and you're calling a report that you heard something 2 hours ago, non-emergency is just fine. I'd say specifically with the shooting incidents and reports of shots fired, that should be going to emergency and non-emergency, because those are the stats that are going to help us address issues if there is an increase in this neighborhood association.
The non-emergency line is 823-3333. So it's fairly easy to remember. But again, that is a non-emergency. So if it's an active, if somebody's being assaulted, if somebody's stealing your car right at this moment, if you're seeing, some stuff like that, then that's a 911 call. If you see something suspicious that you want the police to know about or to be able to check into, or if your bike was stolen 2 hours ago, 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago, then that's an emergency call.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. So with the speaker setup that we have improvising here, I think we'd have to ask people to come up front, and I can bring around the mic stand so you can just talk to the mic stand. But does anybody have questions for our police officers while they're here?
I got the Spanish subtitle and all in Spanish. This is FYI, so.
Okay. Change that back, thanks.
Calvin, do you want to come on up?
I'll just project. Anecdotal, but I feel like I've been seeing a lot of vehicles with no plates or trip permits or 6 variations of the license plate. And, I don't drive a ton, but I mean, it's every time I am driving. Is Portland Police addressing that, or what are solutions there? Because those are some of the cars that we see bombing, peeling around. I mean, I'm assuming they're not insured, so that's a problem in a couple different ways when they rip the mirror off, but that's the question I've got.
And a quick question for the people on Zoom. Could you hear that last question, comment?
Yes, they said yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
So we do have stolen vehicle missions often. We had one Monday night that resulted in a number of stolen vehicles recovered. East Precinct runs those. We run those in North Precinct. We also have retail theft missions, which are some of those same people that don't have plates. So when we can run a mission, we can address those things. Individually, if we do not have a lot of calls, officers can and do make traffic stops for those types of violations. Often the people will elude, and because of the balance of weighing the risk of capturing them, to risk of the community, to the officers versus the benefit of the capture, and what resources we have available, it takes a lot of people to go to prevent an elude or stop somebody when they're eluding. So it's really as time allows, we will address those things. but we do have the missions that get those, quite often. We also had a street racing mission, this past weekend that, got several vehicles, several folks that were arrested. Those types of individuals also will take their plates off and, run around town. So it's not as easy as one officer being able to just stop the car. Usually it takes 3, 4, 5 different officers setting up in front of where we think they may go to be able to get a spike strip. Or if we have a plane up, we can follow them with a plane and trying to find out where they're going. So we are aware of it. We're trying to address it, but we don't have the manpower to be able to do it every single day.
And yeah, I think you'll have to.
I don't, yeah. Can you follow up and talk more about street racing and the police's, I guess, response or how you guys are working to, I guess, mitigate the ongoing street racing problem?
Sure. We had a big event over the New
Yes.
Year's, and then we had another big event this past weekend, or the weekend before, recently. And so we staff with as many officers as we can, 20, 30, 40 officers, and then be able to identify where they're at and try to set up on routes that they're going away from to go to apprehend folks that are, because it's now a city and a state crime to be involved in street racing, either as a participant or as a onlooker. And so we're able to address those, tow vehicles that we stop for those things, take people to jail for the participants when they're putting other people in danger. So as we hear of those things, we're able to address them. There are smaller pop-up gatherings that may be could be tonight at, now. And we may not have resources to be able to dedicate to it, but the larger events, we're trying to make an impact and being able to address it and make Portland an undesirable location for them to come to. And the laws now in our benefit and our favor are helping with that. But we'll see as the summer goes on, where these big events continue to take place, if it's going to continue to be Portland or hopefully in other locations that may be more advantageous for it.
I have to give you guys as an association credit, reading through your webpage and seeing how you guys actually worked with P-BOT to get the soft bumps put in on Sandy, just to make it less of a desirous place to do burnouts and stuff there, because they gotta deal with the bumps. That was ingenious. So it's good to see that you guys are taking it to your level too and doing that for your.
I have a Zoom question as well, so I just want to make sure that we.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, let's get to that in just one second. Let me just say that kudos to P-BOT as well. They did that as a maintenance work, so it's super low overhead and quick for them to turn that around. And so it's really happy with their response as well. Not making like a big capital project or something. It's just a common sense thing. And yeah, thank you for the recent mission. We endorsed the change to state law to include like confiscation of forfeiture of vehicles, and hopefully that hits people where it hurts when they're not just having fun, but actually endangering people's lives, as they did with the neighbor here.
And that's in its infancy. We'll see built up results that goes along, but at least we've started from a point now and we're building upon it. So.
Thank you. So yeah, any questions?
Yeah, keeping in the context of street racing, somebody asked, what is the best way, I don't know. What is the best way to report street racing, 911 or non-emergency call?
Just because of the sheer volume of calls that we have that are emergencies, such that shootings, robberies, assaults, that sort of thing. I would think that non-emergency would be better, as just to give us a heads up that it's happening. Now, if there's if you hear an accident, or if there's something, if you can see it and they're openly endangering somebody, I think that's a 911 call. But if it's just a street racing event that's going on, it's probably better to be done through non-emergency.
Thank you. One more Zoom question as well. It's, I think, more just like of a general safety issue, but would it be possible to have some speed enforcement on Northeast 72nd Avenue between Prescott and Fremont. So I think that's kind of,
So you talk about your parkway.
Yeah. like,
Uh,
specifically, speed enforcement.
What times of the day is it happening that's of concern?
Bob, this question was yours. Is there a specific time that you would like potentially speed
If there's
enforcement?
a specific time that you're seeing, you know, in rush hour from 5
Yeah.
to 6, it's happening, then, I mean, that's something we could address. If
Okay.
it's just happening several times throughout a week or once or twice a day and without any kind of specificity,
Yeah,
specifically
Yeah.
at a certain time, then it would be much more difficult.
okay, that's good to know. Great, thank you.
I will put this caveat out there, it's just fair warning, when we get asked by associations to do speed enforcement in areas. The people who use those areas the most are you guys. So when we pull you over, don't get upset with us, because you asked for it.
I was like, disregard that question.
Very-
He said it's happening all day, all night, worse at night. So just that, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Not so much a question, but I live on 72nd, and I would say it's all times of the day. If you were to park there for an hour at any time of day, certainly you would see people speeding in both directions, north and south. You would think that going downhill would be worse, but actually sometimes I've heard people going up.
It is too, very good job keeping track of the order, but let's go for you next.
Yeah, my question is related to the speed enforcement as well. I know that you guys are spread super thin, so this is kind of a specific question, but I've been up to the airport a few times in the last few months, and there's always like a cop out there patrolling the speedway, or like the airport lane, or whatever that street is called, and I was just wondering like how you all determined that that was a priority, and like why that is a priority rather than other things.
Yeah, so to be fair, I mean, if you're talking between 205 and the airport itself, that's probably Port of Portland Police.
Oh,
patrolling
okay.
their own area. So
Ours are rated.
I wasn't going to say that.
We got time for just like one or two more questions and just note also that some of this about speed on 72nd will be addressed in the next section of the presentation from Peabody.
I have a more general question. I've been reading about what other neighborhoods have been doing about shootings, and these have been rough. I live next to Wellington. We had to take my kid and run down to the basement one time this last year because they sounded so close. And he was really traumatized. And I'm curious to hear from you, you know, what have you seen neighborhoods do that have helped bring about a successful reduction? I read about Mount Stott, Arletta, and they did a combination of things, including traffic calming and working with local businesses. And they got like a 64% reduction in shootings year over year. So I'm curious, like, what would you throw out as some, you know, high value things that as a neighborhood we could work toward?
Great question.
Certainly. I know I talked some with Calvin about this, but environmental hardening is a large part. If you got trees and shrubs up in front of your house that are impeding your view of areas that you want to be maintained safe, well, they use that on the opposite end and you're impeding your view of them. So keeping the shrubbery cut down, keeping door fronts visible cameras on the houses around the neighborhood. People don't like being caught on film doing what they're doing. So, and we can get tricky with them and hide them in places. No, don't do that. Put them out visible, let people know that like, hey, you're on camera. That's a good deterrent. Looking at your guys' recent shooting history, there's a lot more solvability when there's an isolated area or a house that seems to be the nexus of what's going on. You guys don't have that in your neighborhood. There was that incident that happened. I don't think it's happened since at that location. So that makes it more difficult too, when we don't have an isolated target to focus on. It's a good thing because you guys don't have one, but it does make it more difficult. But again, in the realm of shootings, and I know it's traumatic, especially when you're grabbing your child and running down to the basement. But you guys as a neighborhood are actually doing rather well in the city of Portland. So I think through your guys' involvement, that only gets better.
But speaking for the neighborhood association, I'd say we welcome any information about things that we can do and help educate people about helping themselves. I think I believe it was just Terry.
What, if anything, are you doing on 82nd Avenue? An afternoon
earlier this month, nice sunny afternoon, between the top of the hill on Sandy and just south of McDonald's. There was about a dozen, 10 to a dozen ladies of the evening out flagging down traffic. Are you doing anything?
So we do have our human trafficking unit, and they have run multiple missions throughout the area. You gotta understand too, the focus of the state best practice nationwide is not focusing on the women who are viewed as victims of trafficking, but focusing on people who are doing the actual trafficking. So hopefully by cutting off that head, we're eliminating the victimization of the rest of the people on the street. That's the trend and the focus right now. So that's pretty mission specific, that's pretty specialized. So just because the women are present on 82nd, and you know, I've been here for 20 years, it's ebbed and flowed as far as the presence. It either moves down south or comes up north. Unfortunately, it's up north right now. We're aware of it. The human trafficking unit is aware of it, but we're trying to approach it from a compassionate, best practice model in dealing with the issue. So, but certainly recognize what you're talking about.
Well, thank you so much, Officers Chapman and Mason, for joining us and taking time out of your day. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be in touch as well. Thank you. And yeah, so we're roughly on time here on switching over to a different topic, and that is the Portland Bureau of Transportation current projects, where the project is primarily where the projects are in the design phase, and they're really looking for community inputs from us about those projects before shovels are in the ground and paint is on the pavement or whatever else is done. So we're going to start off here talking about the 70s Colleague Connector Greenway project, and that's with David Backus, and who's right there in person.
Great. And just a reminder, if you could stand in this zone, that's great. Thank you.
That's yours, and you can put the mic stand wherever you want to.
I'll just hold it. All right.
Sorry, just like more.
Sure. I
Yeah.
need to like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right here. Okay. Hi.
This is that. Yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Hi, I'm David Backus from Peabody. And I'm here to talk about the 70s Greenway Colleague Connector. I do want to say before I get into this, so I think some of the projects are earlier in design and others like this one is like on the eve of construction. So it's not really a point in the project where we're getting feedback on different elements about it. This is more kind of the status update where we're at. And if you haven't seen me here before, it's actually been a while since I've been in person. So you'll have my contact info if you have questions. There's quite a few people here. I'm assuming quite a few online too. So if you have questions about the details, my phone number is right up there. It's a cell phone. If you have questions that come up that you aren't able to ask or don't feel comfortable asking in the big group, feel free to send me a text if you want to say, hey, saw you at Roseway. We talk about the project. I'll get back to you within a couple days, if not tomorrow. Yeah, phone number 503-201-7575. If you want to just text me like right now, I'll get it. Yeah, so that's that. Great. We could go to the next one. I'm gonna be looking to the side a little bit. So how many people have heard about this project in general? Okay. So there's going to be a little bit of background for maybe a couple of you who haven't heard about it. So the project extents are basically right here, just a little bit over on 72nd up north to Lombard. Some of the graphics are older, so they still say Killingsworth, but that's the project area. It's about a mile or so. And I'm going to go through a couple of, why are we doing this project, background slides, a little bit of the project details, and then see how we're doing for questions here. We can go to the next one. So this, I wanted to kind of bring this map in. This is part of a much larger greenway that actually stretches all the way down to the Springwater corridor. The area by the golf course, I think, is finishing up construction this week officially. So this is just the northern bookend of that project, highlighted in kind of the darker red there. So a number of years ago, I had a project that connected the 70s Greenway to the Springwater Trail down south. So now I'm doing the northern section there. We go to the next one. Okay, so just a couple bullets on why are we doing this. The Prescott to Lombard section doesn't have comfortable or safe place for people biking or walking at all today. I live in St. John's, by the way, so I made a point of coming all the way down 72nd, or people out walking their dogs kind of in the gravel and ditches and stuff. It's not a safe or comfortable place, especially for young people, people with mobility disabilities. And in the Sandy to Prescott section, there's just too much traffic, too high speed of traffic right now to meet our neighborhood greenway standards. And we did a license plate study at the beginning of the project, looking at how many cars are starting up at Lombard and going all the way down through the intersection right here. It was something like 2/3 of cars are using 72nd as a cut-through street, and it's really not designed to handle that volume of traffic, especially if you want to encourage people to bike on the street more and enjoy it more as kind of a neighborhood street. So a lot of the changes that we're making are to support the feel of 72nd as a neighborhood street and kind of discourage cut-through traffic on it. We can go down to the next one. So we're making some changes, like I said, to reduce the traffic volume on 72nd, especially in the Roseway Parkway area with turning movement changes to the 72nd Sandy Fremont intersection. So there'll be turn restrictions. And I have a graphic that shows that detail a little bit later. And I realize this screen is kind of smaller than I was picturing. So people in the back, all of this stuff is online too. And if you have trouble finding it, just let me know and I can kind of walk you through things later. We're building safer and more visible crossings at some of the major intersections, and we're constructing a multi-use path north of Prescott on the west side of 72nd. All right, go down to the next one. So I think the biggest and probably most impactful change is going to be to this intersection here, kind of right outside these doors. And what we're looking at doing, so when we did the license plate study and traffic studies, oh, we lost it. So our issue in the southbound direction are cars today that we have a huge left turning traffic volume, people going down 72nd, turning left either on the Sandy or on the Fremont. And northbound, we have too much traffic going, from the southern side of 72nd up north through the intersection. We looked at a number of different options for how to reduce that traffic, including diverters in the Roseway Parkway blocks, so you wouldn't be able to drive all the way through there. But we had some in our emergency response route and how ambulances, fire trucks, police response, all of that stuff would function. So the result was limiting the turns that the cut-through traffic wants to make here to discourage them from getting on 72nd in the first place, or at least using it to go all the way down through the intersection of the Sandy or Fremont. So what this means is if you're southbound on 72nd now, you'll be directed to a right turn only, or you can kind of loop back around up to access the business on the corner or the houses further up to the north. I'm gonna do questions at the end if that works, if you hold on to that one. And from the northbound side, we're constructing a concrete island here and directing traffic from the south side of 72nd right on the Fremont, instead of allowing traffic to go all the way through there. I think we could go to the next one. This is a full project map that we have on the website. It's definitely going to be too small to look at here, but you can see some of the changes proposed to Prescott, which isn't as major, but it's kind of clarifying where the bike crossing and pedestrian crossings are, so it's not so confusing when you kind of pull up to the stop signs there where you're supposed to be and who's crossing where, making everything higher visibility. And then, like I said, there's a shared path that we're constructing on the west side of 72nd all the way up to Lombard. So we'll have a comfortable and safe place for people to bike and walk in the neighborhood on that side of 72nd. And go down. Okay, so our schedule for this project, unfortunately for me and the neighborhood, is getting a little bit more complicated. So we are at final plans now. We're just doing a little bit of kind of minor tweaks before we have a bid ready plan set, which means it's ready for us to send out into the world to get bids from contractors to construct. But we are short on funds by about 700,000. And I'm working with the managers and leadership team on securing additional funding for this project because we don't have anything left to cut out. It's kind of it is what it is right now. We got to a 30% plan set a couple of years ago. I had to make some changes to make it less expensive to construct, and right now we don't have any fat left to cut off the bone. So I don't have any plans to reduce the scope, but it's going to add a little bit of time to our schedule before we can start construction. So I have a note here. Our original design completion target was winter 2023. We are well past that, partially because of the scope reduction and design changes that we had to make a little bit ago. So we're at final plans now, which is the good news. We were hoping to send the project to bid in a month or so. We're probably going to be looking more at a fall bidding timeline, which would put construction start closer to the end of 2024, early 2025, instead of end of this summer. So I haven't sent out a bigger email update about this because all of the budget kind of issues started to come up within the last couple of weeks. So it's kind of a newer issue we're working on sorting out. And what this is really coming from is the contingencies that we hold in our budgets are just not keeping up with inflation and the kind of rising costs of construction. So even though we hold, extra money to cover those kind of things, projects that started design pre-pandemic just weren't holding enough back. And that's kind of where we're at for this one now. So for the 72nd project specifically, I'm still pretty confident that we're going to be able to construct the things I've showed you here. We're just looking at a little bit longer timeline than we were hoping for. I think we can go to the next one. Oh, yeah. Okay, contact info, I'm just gonna leave this up. Again, phone number is 503-201-7575. I have a project website here, which is portland.gov/70s-greenway-cully. And that has some of the graphics and info I showed. It doesn't have the detailed schedule problems yet because it's still a little too up in the air for me to say we're going to be in construction in X or Y month. But yeah, how are we doing on time? How much did I leave?
Yeah, so we're officially at about a time. We did start a few minutes late, and I figured that this project in particular might have more Q&A. So
Yeah.
I want to be gracious with time keep there. Okay. So we have, let's say, like 5 minutes for Q&A.
Well, I'll just go until you pull me off the stage. Okay.
Spirit.
Yeah.
All right, so it's something you're ready for questions?
Yeah. Do you mind helping?
Yes,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
some in
okay.
the back, right? It's for-
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one there.
Oh,
Yeah.
first.
You-
Okay.
No, you had your hand up first during the presentation, so go.
Can you hear me or? Okay, yeah, project.
Could you go back to the slide with the intersection?
Yeah. Yeah, that.
Drawn there. Will there be, traffic allowed on, I see bicycles on the road there. Will there be cars allowed on 72nd or?
Here? Yeah. So if you're, these are shared lane markings, it's basically just to say if you're biking southbound here, it's to help line you up into this green lane to use the new bike signal to get across the intersection here. These markings, if you see them, they look a little different than the bike lane markings, which are lanes just for people biking. So you can still drive north and southbound on 72nd, it's open. What we're trying to do really is discourage the kind of massive flow of traffic up and down from people that don't necessarily live anywhere near the neighborhood.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and my question is related to signaling, and then the bike signals are great, actually, since that's a really major crosswalk for kids going to Roseway Heights from the north side. Will cars be allowed to turn left from 72nd northbound onto Sandy in this new model?
From here over left here, no,
That's the worst turn.
yeah, no, this is right on the free. Yeah.
So it looks like you had a follow-up. So we can put follow-up.
Yeah, are there any further plans? Don't know where I saw this, maybe I imagined it, but are there any plans to develop that land or just weird internet based?
Develop which land?
The greenway.
No, I haven't heard anything about that. There was a plan, the original plan for this from PBOT, maybe 2016, 2017, was to put a path through the middle. But Roseway Neighborhood Association rejected that very loudly. So, so you get this instead. Yeah.
What year was that?
I think it's 2016,
Okay.
2017-ish, yeah, so there was a proposal to put a path through the park blocks all the way up. It was not met favorably, PBOT and the neighborhood went back and forth quite a bit, and we actually, hindsight, this doesn't look great, but we gave up $1 million in funding from this project because we thought it wouldn't be as expensive. Then everything got way more expensive, so I wish we had that money to do this, but we don't, so that's where we're at now.
Yeah, without, putting on the spot or pointing fingers, anything of that nature, but if we feel strongly that we'd like this to proceed and understand that the nature of projects is to get more delayed and not less, what, levers are there to agitate for $700,000 in funding to get it to bid and get this thing locked in?
Yeah, we had a similar question. I was at the Coley Neighborhood Association. Project is paired with we're constructing a lot of the gravel streets in the Coley neighborhood. That one's also short. So my suggestion was to work with the neighborhood association, send emails or a letter to the commissioner, director, PBOT director, just letting them know, kind of reaffirming how important this project is to the neighborhood. Everything helps. The more they hear, the more it's in their head. So I think that kind of thing, just go above my head as much as you can. And yeah, I think at this point, like this project has $2.2 million in funding from Metro. They were really not happy with us when we had to remove some of the scope. So we can't cut anything out anymore from this one. And the quicker we get it built, the less expensive it's going to be. We're going to be dealing with less inflation and less rising costs. So yeah, if you want to do a little letter writing campaign or something, I would say that's the next move, really.
Yeah, so stay tuned for more communication from the neighborhood association about that, because we're really happy to put that pressure on. And yeah, getting into winter gets more complicated as well. So I think that probably causes things to push even farther.
Yeah, and we have a letter of support from the neighborhood association, which is great to have for this, but yeah, everything else.
But we have time for maybe one more.
I have some Zoom questions as well.
Oh,
I just
okay.
want to make sure we
Yeah,
get one more in here and then hit a few in here.
yeah. So let's take a Zoom question and then I'll kind of look at the time again.
Okay, well, I have 3. So there was a question of when we can get speed bumps on 72nd Avenue between Prescott and Fremont.
Oh, that's in this project. We didn't mention
Okay.
it, but yeah, we have speed bumps slated for the park blocks area. They're the fire friendly kind because it's an emergency response route. So they have the channels cut out so fire trucks can avoid them, or like, a pickup truck, unfortunately, too. But we just got data from a similar project. Ainsworth has a similar type of speed bump that's going to go in here. In the early data was looking like an 11% reduction in speeds, just median speeds. I'm not sure about top end speeding, but I'm assuming it cuts that down too. It's just annoying to drive over them fast.
Okay, can we do one more and then on Zoom, just to make it
Yeah.
equal, and then we'll cut over, and then I'll put your contact information in the
Yeah.
chat, and so everyone can follow up personally, so.
Okay.
Let's put one more, keeping it equitable here.
3 other PBOT projects.
Yeah, okay, here's one. Can you please confirm whether the vehicle barriers will or will not be included on the 72nd? Okay, render. I think we just kind of talked more on that. So why do you close lanes for traffic when cars want to use them? That is what they are for. 72nd is a road for cars. I don't get it. Make everyone go all the way around to 80th other streets. Let's see. Yeah, just some thoughts on closing streets and
We're not
navigation.
closing any streets.
Okay.
You can still drive a car on 72nd. You won't be able to make certain turns. But like I said, there's too much traffic on 72nd, wasn't designed for the volumes that we see today. It's a volume reduction strategy for this project. Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, we do have 3 other PBOT representatives with presentations as well. So we're gonna call it on at this point, but yeah, you got David. And yeah, so next up, let me just confirm I got it right. Yeah, we got Mimi Phillips, representing Mason Skidmore Greenway.
Yeah,
and
This is the spot for the
Okay.
right and not getting your head cut off. Okay, and really projecting into the mic would be great too.
Okay. Okay, I'm Mimi Phillips. I'm a project manager for PBOT, and I'm working on the Mason Skidmore Neighborhood Greenway project. On screen right now is just a title screen. It has all of my contact information. Mimi.phillips@portlandoregon.gov. I'm happy to say my phone number out loud if anybody can't do it. Okay, it's 503-865-6727. And I also have business cards with me if anybody. Take one of those home. And the website for this project is portland.gov/Mason Skidmore. And you can go ahead and move on. This slide is showing the location of the project. It actually runs through 3 different neighborhoods. It starts just on a small section of Beaumont, Wilshire, Cully, and then Roseway. So it starts at 37th on Skidmore, and it goes down Skidmore until 47th, and then cuts over to Mason, and Mason all the way to 77th. So there are some, I know there's some stuff over the writing at the bottom right now, but it's fine. It connects to several other greenways. At 42nd, we're gonna be making improvements to that intersection for pedestrians and for bikes. There's an image of that later. It connects through the recently completed improvements at Cully. And then we have been working with the y'all's Neighborhood Association to put in this plaza at 72nd in the park blocks. And that was actually something that was conceived by the Neighborhood Association before this project was conceived. So that's been around, I know, in y'all's radar for longer than I've been around. So you can move on. So what is a neighborhood greenway? I'm sure you've had other PBOT presentations about that. But it is streets that are designed to be low traffic, low speed, off of main throughways that vehicles use to have a better separation of traffic types and make these streets safer for bikes and pedestrians. This project, as was stated, is part of a larger greenway initiative, and it connects to, I think, 3 or 4 different greenways crossing north-south, and this would be a major east-west. So we just came out with 60% design. I actually just got it last week. That's coming up next. And we are still taking community input. We've made some changes, based on community feedback from the last iteration. And we are expecting to be done with design in July, which is still gonna get us on track to build this summer. We are hoping to go to construction in August right now. So get in before the rain, which makes it very hard to paint. So this we can just go through pretty quickly. These are brand new renderings, that I got from my engineering crew. So there is going to be minor amounts of parking removal. And that is at intersections where we are, putting in stop signs. And that's for visibility for both, cars making turns, and also to increase visibility for pedestrians, for them to be able to see and to be seen. So where there's these red markings right here, that's parking removal areas. It's about one space, at the end of block, so it's not super impactful, but it really does make a difference as far as visibility. And then I know, especially from the back, these are probably hard to see, but these are, all going to be posted to the website. There's markings here where we're putting in speed bumps. There's some new stop signs.
Cross street through those, where are you going?
So this is starting in Beaumont, Michigan, so this is 37.
Okay.
So as we go up, we'll move more into your neighborhood. So just kind of flipping through this quickly, we're putting in speed bumps, sharrows, which are the pavement markings indicating that this is a shared street for bicycles. And there's signage that's not all included on this. We didn't, the design sheet got done last week for 60%, so not everything got put on here. And some of the signs would be redundant to put on this. There's a lot of like speed limit signs, shared street signs, and other visibility markers to make people know that it's a shared street. Yep. So we can just flip through this pretty quick. It's probably easier for folks to look at on the website. One thing that we've changed a little bit is how we're improving the intersection at 42nd for pedestrians and cyclists. So certainly we heard from the neighborhood, there's a really big issue with cars moving around stopped buses at that location. So currently we have shown pedestrian islands to prevent that movement and also give kind of a respite in the middle of the street to make the distance shorter for pedestrians to get across. That has yet to be, because these are brand new, that has yet to be fully vetted with the RNA Neighborhood Association, and that is in their neighborhood, so we need to make sure we bring this to them. Minimally, we will be putting in a traffic separator, which is more like a top curb. So it doesn't add as much pedestrian protection, but it does prevent that movement away from buses. This is just kind of more of the same. Again, it'll be posted on the website and easier to see. Speed bumps, pavement markings. You can go ahead and go through. This is now 47th. Again, more of the same, small amounts of parking removal. Let me go ahead and keep going.
Who's he with now?
Excuse me?
Oh, sorry.
Now we're at 49th, so this is where it cut over to Mason. And down 54th, again, speed bumps, small amounts of no parking removal, other visibility signs. This is 57th. You can go ahead and I just put the whole thing on here. Cully, this intersection was recently improved. We are still getting a lot of safety concerns about that intersection. This project is putting in the green pavement for bikes to go through, and we're putting some noses on on those islands. We cannot take on redoing this intersection as part of this project. It would be very expensive, largely because the corners don't meet current ADA standards. So if we make improvements, every single one of those has to be rebuilt. There is, however, another project coming through that's been funded, I believe, by a state grant to make additional improvements to this intersection. I believe they're going to start design either next year or early 2026. So it will be a couple of years before it comes in, but it is funded and they are gonna make some more major improvements to that intersection. I don't know all what they are, but that is gonna happen at some point.
Maybe just time check since we.
Oh, yeah.
Some time for Q and A. Is there anything else on here that we should really zoom in on?
No, I don't think so, just,
Closer to like 70th and.
yeah. Yes, again, a lot of this is gonna be much more clear, to see if you wanna go to the next one, online, it's gonna be much more clear. This is where the plaza is going to be. Greg is gonna talk a little bit more about what goes inside the plaza. My project is just the signage and blocking off the plaza. So we are going to be putting in, marked crossings going to the plaza. And, oh, sorry, right here. And it's a little hard to see, these are the park blocks. This is going south down 72nd, and this is Mason. So that, square in there, the plan is to block it off to vehicular traffic, and make it a community gathering place, that the association and our class of team has been working on.
And we will have a separate section tonight to talk about the plaza as well. We don't have slides for that, but guys would be talking to us about that.
Yeah, you can, that's gonna.
Are you taking questions?
Anything else to highlight on the slides before we go to questions?
I think so,
Can I look at the Wellington Park part really quick?
one more. There. Yeah, so what we have right now is, 2 speed bumps, the pavement markings, on either side of 67. And my traffic engineer is looking at, possible, what he thinks is the best thing for signage improvements, on that street. And yeah, I know I've talked with Eric and Lindsay, at the Malvis Park, and we are aware that there is a lot of concern here. We've also brought on Safe Routes to School, and they're looking at it with us. At this point, this is what we have, is these 2 speed bumps, which we do believe is gonna be the most impactful treatment that we can put on this street. But yeah, we are looking at it more closely, and that's where we are right now.
What do you mean by signage improvements?
So, there's definitely gonna be replacing, upgrading whatever signs are there now. We're looking at if we can put in like pedestrian crossing signs, speed signs, so I did talk with, some community members about this. We can't actually put a stop sign at this intersection. So always stops. So because it's a T intersection, it would effectively make it an always stop. PBOT policy is to not put in always stops unless it is an interim solution to eventually putting a light there. This intersection would not meet that criteria. The other reason that we can't put in an always stop is because on neighborhood streets, stop signs are implemented if there's a confusion about who would have the right of way. And because Mason is the through street, they would logically have the right of way in this instance. And if we put in a stop sign, there is a very likely risk of people blowing the stop sign, which creates an additional safety risk. So because of that and for our policy, we can't put in stop signs at that location.
Yeah, just what I'm following, that's my house to end right there on 67, so I'm on a, let's call it 500-yard downgrade. To an uncontrolled intersection, making swinging lefts or rights into what's now a heavily advertised bike lane. And that's safe. Well, I mean, I just can't see what the speeds that I see on my street all the time, as the nature of just a car's 1,500 pounds heavier than we years ago, right? So if you don't even touch the gas, you can hit 35, 40, and then you're gonna just whoop to Mason. When it's light, there's no cars there, you have this big wide turn, and it's also painted for like bikes come this way. I just think those two things seem to be in opposition with each other. I'm wondering if there's another opportunity to stop or a roundabout to reroute or something that people can all predict where the other person's gonna go if a stop sign isn't a good solution.
So are you talking about people coming down 67th towards Mason?
Correct.
Okay, I will, definitely bring that up with my team as well. I know they are looking at this intersection and seeing what else can possibly be done. As far as, you know, stop signs, traffic diverters, I know I spoke to some folks about diverters before. They are only used on greenways if there are, volume concerns with removing the bicycle traffic from the car traffic. And Mason doesn't meet that criteria as far as our volume data street.
So is part of this, repaving Mason as well? Because it's, I mean, it's horrible.
Last.
I haven't been out there. There are definitely parts of it that need some help. This project unfortunately is not doing any repaving. I did bring the pavement manager out on site. And the conditions in the bad areas like around 63rd, and that area are so bad that we can't do any surface treatments. It would require a complete rebuild of the street, which is millions and millions of dollars. So unfortunately, we can't include that in this project because we don't have that kind of money.
I know there are a lot more questions here. We are running about 10 minutes behind and we haven't got any Zoom questions. So.
No Zoom right now,
Okay.
but this guy right here in the orange shirt, she's had her hand up a long
Thank
time,
you.
yeah.
I live on Mason and, 4th on Mason. And I am witness 30 years of living there, seeing cars go by very fast. Not all the time, but enough to kill a kid or a dog or an old person, okay? And so where did these cars come from? They come from 82nd. So they go 82nd and then they get right into Mason, right where Mason meets Sandy Boulevard. That's far, okay? And then they go boom all the way. So I have many questions regarding that, because if 72nd is going to be closed to cars coming down Mason, where are they going to go? Number 2, why couldn't we do something right there where Mason meets Sandy Boulevard? Because that's where I am with, you know, if you guys drive in that area, you know, the mini cars just go boom like that, you know, right? You agree? So I was thinking when we first talked about this, that there would be something right there that announced Greenway, and there would be maybe something to block these speeders.
So this greenway does not extend that far east.
And why
It goes to it goes to 77th.
I heard you, but why?
Um,
Not all the way to where it starts.
So as essentially it comes down to a money thing, like we can't do all of these bike projects all at once. I believe that in the overall city bike plan, it does extend further. But that's one of the things we would have to find funding for it in order to advance projects to get built. So for this project, we don't have money to extend further.
And that's why, because of the money.
Yeah, so I think it is in the city bike plan, which is kind of a hope that these things will get built as soon as possible, but they have to find funding first.
So then when a car comes speeding and gets in onto Mason, right, right there, then they're going to go all the way to, I mean, where are they going to turn? My question is, because they can't go through anymore to 57. So what's going, you know, how do you envision that pattern, that traffic?
So at the plaza at 72nd, that's what you're referring to?
Well, I imagine they have to turn before that, right?
So it depends on which way you're going.
No, I'm talking about coming down 82nd and getting onto Mason, right where it meets Sandy, because Mason runs into Sandy Boulevard. You know where I'm talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
and again, that's a lot further east than this project extends.
Yeah, just, I'm sorry, if you could follow up with her directly, we do just need to kind of pivot to the next one. And so I do see some other hands in the room. So again, I think we do need to move on. So if you could email her directly.
Yeah, for these projects where you have something specific for, I mean, having that direct line to Peabody is great. Thank you so much for having your contact information. If you feel like there's something that collectively we can do to communicate as a neighborhood, you know, go to roseway.org. We've got the email address there, and let us know if you want to amplify those concerns through the whole neighborhood.
Those pictures will be up there, right? I've seen one.
I just got these finished getting over to me. They will get up this week.
Thank you so much for your time and walking us through the presentation.
And so now we'll go to Greg Raceman, who's gonna focus on the plaza portion, not Plaza, Plaza. Which is that Harlem section, so we might have to go back to the slides to show that visual, but.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, actually. Sure.
Okay, yeah, I'll bring it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Raisman. I work in a team in Peabody called Public Realm and Street Activation. We're a very new program that really was born out of COVID. So I was previously on a team that helped put together what's called the Health and Business Program. So that's where you see a lot of businesses using parking spaces, to survive, and now as places to enjoy. And some of those projects want to be bigger. Some of them wound up kind of taking over whole blocks and things like that. And so the Healthy Business Program was in the permitting group, and then this team I'm on is in transportation planning now. And we still have a business oriented one, but the team we're on is really about creating publicly accessible places where you don't have to buy something to be there. It's a place where you can sit and enjoy the world. And so we are so young that we don't even have our program yet. We're currently working with a consultant to really figure out what our policies will be in terms of like, how do you make a plaza permanent? How do we decide about kind of our design works? We'll have kind of 3 levels of plazas of, something that's kind of pop up, and then something that's a little nicer, and then something that's, really built out, constructed. Currently have more plazas than we can really handle. Because we have some that have been around since the 70s, like St. John's Plaza, and we have the number that came out of COVID. And so, we need help when people want something new. And this project came with a lot of opportunity because of the excitement that came from the neighborhood. There was a PSU project that went door to door, and the neighborhood, when we were talking about it, was positive. And so there's a committee that's headed by Catherine Clark, the placemaking committee, who's with the Neighborhood Association. Has been doing an incredible job putting this together. And we're hoping that this, through really the neighborhood's work, becomes a very special community place. So as Mimi mentioned, at 72nd, that huge swath of asphalt is not going to allow cars through anymore. And within that space, the neighborhood has come up with a plan to make it into something where people can spend time together. They include things like Foursquare, a stage for music or performance, a street mural, and I can talk about that separately for a second as well. Basketball, to actually do like a half court, because you guys have a basketball hoop out there. Some public seating, and planters. And so the way we're going to be able to help is with some of the materials. So we're going to be providing picnic tables. We're going to be providing planters that the community will take care of. And we're also going to be installing some bike racks into the space. And then for the street cleaning element, we're going to provide a $2,000 subsidy to be able to help support that community work.
Thank you.
And in the end, I think you'll wind up with something really special that the community really created together, which is pretty beautiful. While I'm standing here, I should also mention that for the past 20 years or so, I've overseen our artistic street painting program. People actually painting their roadways as community building projects. and I'm the person you would talk to if you ever wanted to relive. Couple quick things about that, they're really great at building relationships between neighbors, having people create their own specialties. Looking out for each other through those relationships. Really a local identity and expression of who lives there. They don't affect traffic. That's kind of the biggest misperception. So with them, you won't see any like changes in speed or, you know, someone stopping at a stop sign on the other end. You're not going to see people like getting distracted and running off the road and terrible things happen. They're just really neutral on the traffic side of things, but they have enormous community benefit. And I'm gonna leave my business cards here, a little stack. So please, either take one or take a photo of one so that if they're available for everybody. And that's really the long and short of why I'm here tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for helping us.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, Catherine Clark is the one that Greg was mentioning, who's the head of the committee, who's been spearheading this work here, this design work, and we really want your input as well. And we realize this diagram is probably kind of hard to read from the back, so I did try to zoom in, and we can move around if people have questions about the elements of it, the thought that's gone into it so far, and certainly if you have any input. But Catherine, first, do you have anything you want to say before we open it up to Q&A?
Well, I've lived here for 11 years. I've been involved in the parkway tree planting and care for about the last 8 years. And that's why I wanted to be involved in this. It helps protect our parkway. It helps people, it'll get people involved in taking care of it. So, really excited. We had an Earth Day event there last weekend. We had a community event permit and closed it off, and we had a great time. So is this posted on the website?
I don't think the drawing is yet, but
Okay.
that's an excellent idea, so we'll put it up there.
So we measured the space, actually paced it out and then measured it. It's 80 feet wide by 60 feet long, and we closely followed what people indicated they wanted on that PSU survey. Because there were over 150 responses, and by far they want seating there. And PBOT's gonna provide picnic tables for us. They want shade, and we can't make those trees grow faster. And we also can plant more trees there because of urban forestry permit regulations. But we do have a plan to build, structures to hold sunshades for the summer. We do have a plan to add pollinator patches on the edge of the parkway, around the plaza space. So that'll be native plantings designed to draw more pollinators. We'll get more birds, more wildlife in the area. But there's a great place here for neighbors to gather, to have events. And we just found out what PBOT can provide. So the tables, some planters, bike racks, just found out today, and the money for a street mural. So we'll have to work on that. It'll be beautiful, really beautiful. So,
Yeah, questions about that?
Who's gonna maintain it when it's built? And how are we going to prevent like people from, like transients from camping in this area?
well, we're going to maintain it, but we have been maintaining. We cleaned it up. My friend Ken here, he cleaned up the space before our Earth Day event, and he produced a drawing from measurements and everything. I don't know about transients. I think the more we're out there, the more we use the space. Kind of like the police were saying, because we're out there, we're not neglecting the parkway. We also have plans to seek arboretum status from urban forestry because we have a very diverse tree population. It's a unique place to walk through. You can pull up the city ArcGIS and find every tree on the parkway, and it'll tell you the species and common names and features about every one of those trees. So we, yeah.
Yep. I just want to share our experience in plazas in general, which is that we've seen less problems where our plazas are active. There's a concept called CEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design, which is all about creating spaces where it's less comfortable to commit crime. And having a lot of eyes there, having people use it, makes it less comfortable for the more negative things to happen as the more positive energy comes in. So, that's part of why I'm so excited you guys have such fabulous leaders like Catherine and Chris that really are making things like this happen, because it makes a huge difference. And yeah, there's CEPTED is actually like a real study field. And all this stuff really feels like it's really heading in that direction from my perspective.
No, it's just to reiterate that this is a long-term commitment by the neighborhood association. So a lot of times we do a project and we do an event, it ends, it wraps up, and we're done. We're making a long-term commitment here as a community to maintain and make this place, not just maintain it, but actually make it better over time. We talked and conceived of different phases where we could add more elements to it and maybe expand. So
Yeah, like log play structures on the parkway, a free library, information board. There are a lot of things we can add. And there is a plaza in Selwood that Greg directed me to early on. It's actually not an official street plaza, but the neighbors got together, and every corner of properties has some interesting place to sit or get tea or children's play area, things like that. And I visited all of Portland's street plazas, and there is not one like this that's situated in the middle of 5 blocks of Parkway. And so it'll be pretty unique. So we're really lucky we have the space, and really lucky that PBOT has included this in the design for the Greenway.
got a question in the back here. We'll probably only get.
Yeah, the one.
That might be quick then. So is the project in terms of, I'm assuming there are big bollards and planters and all that, is that funded and ready to go and requires completing the Greenway part of it?
It's happening because of the Greenway project.
Okay, so
So-
this work won't be started until the Greenway.
That's right. So the Greenway is what's gonna protect the space, and then the community is what's programming the space. Yeah. And if I may put a plug in, I know you had your hand up first.
I just wondered, what is that gray box in the left bottom left? That, yeah, what is that?
We'd like to get a table up on the Parkway with some access for people with limited or different mobility. So that's a plan for later. That would be an encroachment on the Parkway that we would need a permit for. So anything we do to the Parkway, we need to get permission from PBOT, need permits. Even the tree plant, urban forestry has to get permits from PBOT for every tree they plant on the Parkway. So it's all highly regulated. So we can't just throw things on there without going through all of the necessary regulations. So, and that's a good thing. So people are not just gonna add things.
So once again, we're blessed with more questions than we have time for. Do we have any on Zoom?
No, not at the moment, but we do.
But yeah, we do have one more PBOT presentation, so.
Yeah.
So if you do have questions or concerns or ideas, you're welcome to contact me. And I guess you can reach me best through the neighborhood association. We can post my email there. We promise not to sell it or do anything bad with it. And I'm a private citizen. I'm not part of a government organization, but I'm happy to answer questions or listen to your ideas. And, this is our community space. I'm just helping get it going.
What's the timing?
Yeah, so we are constrained by the Greenway, so the Greenway both on 72nd and Mason and Skidmore need to be nominally complete and cordoned off, especially maybe part of cordoning off the traffic going across on Mason before we can really do a much in the plaza. But other than that, from the neighborhood association's point of view, we're ready to rock and roll with it.
And we'll be ready right away. once it's blocked off to provide resources.
Yeah. But I mean, not to say that this is final by any means. I mean, and if you're interested in being on the committee and contributing to the design here, we're definitely open to input. And so, yeah, probably the best way to get hold of Catherine and the group is through Roseway Neighborhood Gmail. That's on the website. So, yeah, thank you, Greg.
Thank you, everybody.
And we're on the home stretch for the PBOT project overview here. And so Julia Reed is going to talk to us about what's going on with building a better 82nd Avenue. Yeah.
Is it? It's Zoom making, is it, should it?
It's gibberish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's bad.
So should we just
Yes.
get rid of it?
It's distracting me because it's so bad.
Oh, okay, well, it is, yeah, it's through the Zoom feature, so. We'll put a plug into them and let them know that they need to get to that. Oh my gosh. I think it's
Let's get into it. That's fine. But partly like how well the mic is picking up on people, so do try to project and that will help with the translation as well.
That's what the old is now. It's a little longer. Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Reed. I am a senior transportation planner with Portland Bureau of Transportation, and I'm here to talk to you about the 82nd Avenue improvements. I am going to go fast because I have 2 minutes left in my time. But suffice to say, this is maybe the first time that the 82nd Avenue has been presented at this meeting, but it will not be the last. So a little bit of background: in the summer of 2022, 82nd Avenue transferred from Portland or from ODOT jurisdiction to PBOT jurisdiction, and that was due to more than a decade worth of community advocacy to encourage the transfer, actions by state legislature, and it came at after a series of very tragic fatalities on the corridor. So we are really focused on improving safety and maintenance on 82nd Avenue. My screen looks slightly different, but I'm glad that you're seeing my slides more clearly. So on 82nd Avenue, the safety and maintenance needs are vast. Nearly every aspect of the street needs improvement, from the paving to the sidewalks to the lighting to the curb ramps if they exist. 82nd Avenue is also a constrained corridor. Feels really wide when you're on it, but the street is 56 to 60 feet, and that makes it 10 or more feet more narrow than most of Portland's major streets on the east side. So 10 feet narrower than Outer Stark, and 20 feet narrower than 122nd and Division Street. And so that means that we need to make some tough decisions and prioritize the
Yeah, you think I want all these people to have my email? Jeez.
Those stations will look like, where they will be. There's a lot of unknowns and a lot that hasn't been decided. You'll see also, you can see this northern little, there's like a ball around Park Rose and a ball around Cully. The northern terminus of the improved transit line on 82nd Avenue will either be at Park Rose or at Cully. The line 72 for folks who ride the bus on Lombard Killingsworth today, that will continue from Swan Island and terminate at Park Rose. So that line is going to continue, and then we're trying to determine where the northern terminus of this new improved transit line on 82nd Avenue will be. And that is something that Metro Transit folks can speak to you more about. There were 4 options for the northern terminus. It has been narrowed down to 2, which are Cully and Park Rose. And how will that decision be evaluated or determined? It's going to be determined based on fit with local community plans and interests, access to jobs, how well it helps provide connections to other bus lines and snacks lines, that ensuring that it provides a safe and convenient walking and rolling access to the station, ability to serve people who rely on transit, and make it easier for folks to get to transit. And with that, see how they do. Awesome. 7 minutes. Yes.
I think after we've heard from all of the projects, everything's been about funding. So the stuff that's in progress now, is that fully funded through 26? We did it.
Yes, the work on 82nd Avenue's funding is a little bit different than funding for other PBOT projects. So the funding for the first phase of work is from, we call it use it or lose it funds from the American Rescue Plan. So these are funds that PBOT has that we must use, must have everything constructed by the end of 2026, or we have to give it back to the federal government. And we are very focused on our schedule and delivering those projects so that we don't have to give everything back and we're on track. And then the second wave of funding is funding from ODOT, and it's funding that was committed as part of that jurisdictional transfer. So we inherited a house that was in poor repair, and instead of ODOT repairing it, they said, here's some money, go do it yourself. But we are getting, with the funding is certain. Yes.
Mentioned sidewalks and trees is like a major focus. Are sidewalk improvements in phase 1 or phase 2? Or
There are some sidewalk improvements in phase 1. We will be doing more in phase 2. And we are also actively seeking additional funding to, we know that we can't do as many, we can't improve as much of a sidewalk and street tree environment as we want to, and we deeply need to for 82nd Avenue. And so we have 2 grants that are we've submitted at this point, and we'll hear about those in the late summer or early fall. And that money is intended to go towards one of them is towards street trees and sidewalk reconstruction. Another one would pay for some additional improvements in the roadway and safety improvements, which would then free up additional funding for.
Did you get some water?
Yes.
Where the potholes get.
When are the potholes filled in?
Yep, are they gonna be soon?
The first, let me stop sharing so that oops, how do I stop sharing here so that I can see my notes and I can tell you which section is being. Stop sharing, okay. What is coming first? So yes, there is significant amount of repaving of the roadway that is happening in this first phase before 2026. And that those extents are from Fremont to Schuyler and from Mill to the northeast Fremont to northeast Schuyler and then southeast Mill, Mill is directly north of Division to southeast Plaza, which is the county line. That's the extent that's going to be paved in this before 2026. And then the rest of it for after. Other questions?
We actually got a question on the car here from when people were entering. Still concerned that large vehicles and trucks do not fit in 10-foot wide lanes. So
We
is that,
don't have 10-foot wide lanes planned for 82nd Avenue. So I'm not sure if that's related to 82nd.
yeah, it does say 82nd Avenue, so maybe it's a misunderstanding about how wide those lanes will be. Will they be standard width or continue?
We are making some tweaks to the lane width, but the future of 82nd is still a 5-lane. It's 2 lanes in each direction and a center turn lane. And as part of working with the transit project, we are looking for where on the corridor could we have transit priority in the outer lane. So it's a lot of work to determine that and a lot of work in the business community to determine where those bat lanes could be. So it's like it's sort of like the rose lanes you see elsewhere in the city. We know that we're not going to have a continuous rose lane on 82nd Avenue in either direction because of the traffic volumes and the business needs, but that's something that we're working through. Yes.
What was that? Where's the transit lane?
Oh, elsewhere in the city where you like the lane is painted red and it's signed for like bus or turn. There's one on like there's several downtown. There's a few on Sandy. Yeah, they're short distances generally. Other questions? Yes.
Is the intention to keep 82nd in the same category as it was as far as being state route or like freight and that sort of thing? Or-
It is a city freight street. It's not it's no longer a state route because it's a city roadway, and we want as much as possible freight, large trucks that are moving through the area to use the interstate and not use 82nd Avenue, which we are working to make more of a main street, more of a community street, place where it feels safer to walk along and to cross.
Well, thank you. Thank you to everybody from Peabody for joining tonight and making themselves available for questions later. So really appreciate all their time and thought putting into these projects. And yeah, we want to get your feedback on it. Just a quick plug that there will be Sunday parkways going through the Roseway Neighborhood coming up on June 16th. So that is a Peabody effort as well with the Sunday parkways events. And we'll be there representing at 72nd and Mason and talking more about the plaza and other things. So, yeah. the answer, but I think also we saw a spike in gun violence certainly during the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic. The most recent stats that I've heard have shown that it is going down somewhat modestly now. And so I don't have a quick answer for why that is. We know some of the reasons why it got so bad. But enforcement will help, mental health services will help. And that's my partial answer to that, right? So, yeah, and so any other neighborhood joys and concerns before we do a couple neighborhood association updates?
I love our neighborhood association.
Everyone, all the folks who are who participate in the neighborhood association, yeah, well, I think they're doing a great job.
We got a good thing going on there.
Sure, Joy, I think it's been great to see the new food carts now that upright and where there's.
Yeah, they were a little concerned about kind of slow winters and everything, but it seems like we're getting critical mass there. That's awesome. Yeah. Anything else before we move on to a few updates? We want to make sure that people are aware of some of the events coming up around the neighborhood. So I'll just go to that. I gotta grab my computer and then come back to you. Thank you. Thanks. So thank you to Ash, the vice chair, and
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna try to make this a little bigger. Solving problems. But yeah, hopefully people can see this, and there's also a sheet at the entrance with the same information, so feel free to check it out on the way out. But coming up very soon, just in a couple days, there's a unfortunately Zoom only meeting, but it's a kickoff for a project that will create a trail around the Rose City golf course. So this is an exciting project that opens up that huge green space to much more users than it has today. So a long Zoom meeting, but presumably chock full of information. They're going to be talking about some of their design considerations, and this is really the chance for us as a community to provide input. One of the chances before this gets built out, and then we'll have more places to walk and run in the neighborhood. Then we have a New Year in the Park, an exciting event every year in Glen Haven. So that's happening on the 27th, this coming Saturday. So please join that. Sponsored by the Cambodian American Community of Oregon. And then we have just some neighbors just informally put together something called Good Morning Steppers. So I wanted to make a plug that this is something that starts at 10 a.m. at Fresh Love, and they just walk around the neighborhood, and there's usually a theme to what they're going to visit. So the one in May is going to look at little libraries and visit them. And then there's one in June focused on backyard habitat with a backyard habitat specialist guiding that walk. So please do join those. And there's more, all of these are on the Roseway calendar. So, oh, I don't have that. Yeah, just roseway.org/calendar. So feel free to go there for all the details, especially like Zoom links and such. Then sponsored by the Neighborhood Association, we're going to have a concert in the park. So it won't be a movie concert combination this time, but it'll be in Glen Haven, and we'll have Wamba, which is a contemporary West African music band. So very danceable stuff, very family friendly. So come on out for that for sure on July 18th. And then we have our next community meeting on July 23rd. So please do join us for that schedule or the subject to be determined. And we look forward to your feedback on what you're concerned about or what you look forward to in the neighborhood to craft that to be the most compelling information and discussion that we can have. And then a favorite in the neighborhood, Dumpster Day is happening again in August 17th. So look forward to that same location, Glen Haven Park parking lot. And then I believe it's still to be determined when we're gonna have the ice cream social and emergency preparedness event, but we look forward to that as well. And then our October community meeting, in addition to having some coverage of interesting neighborhood topics, it will also be our board election. So that's not the only opportunity to join the board, but it's an opportunity to vote on re-upping and having new board members. So and then, yeah, just one other thing, if you walk along Sacramento, you see the Rose City Bluff next to the golf course. And there's a huge restoration effort going on there, removing invasives, planting native plants, and it's a lot of work, needs a lot of help. So anytime you show up there, 9:30 a.m. At the top of the stairs, everyone's welcome to. On Sundays, yes, yes, yes. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, but yeah.
It's on the
always
calendar.
Yeah, it's on the calendar. So always looking for more volunteers there.
Is the concert in the park in Wellington Park?
No, it will be in Glen Haven this time.
Glenhaven.
Yeah. So yeah, Erica.
I noticed that we didn't, point out that Glen Haven is now gonna host the farmer's market.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's joy, but also wondering like if there's anything that we should know about regarding the first iteration.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I didn't mention that is it's a poorly kept secret. They put it on their website, but they're waiting to like do the official announcement. So you spilled the beans, but yeah. But yeah, very exciting. It'll be on Siskiyou, north of Glen Haven Park, from 80th to 82nd. So it'll be right in the street itself. So we're really looking forward to Roseway being the host of the Rocky View Farmers Market. Much more popular to a lot of people than up by the Bible College. So yeah, looking forward to that. So thanks.
When is that starting?
June, yeah, I think June 1st is the kickoff and it should run to September. Yeah, but we'll get a link up on the website too, once it officially launches, and then you'll have that and we'll put it in the calendar too.
Yeah, so yeah, those are just some of the events going on. I tried to kind of pick out the highlights, but there's others on the calendar, and we've tried to update it as new things come about. Terry?
Yeah, urban forestry has something to do with the annual ice cream.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have the exact information. The trail project is supposed to be there. And right now, the trail project is along Tillamook on the north side, as a neighbor calls it, the trail to Taco. It's not really around the golf course.
Right.
The trail people are supposed to have a booth or some spokesperson at the forestry thing. So I'm gonna go to it. And I apologize, I don't have time when it starts. I wasn't prepared to say that, just figured that everybody did.
Is there a
thanks.
website?
Probably
Someone?
online.
Go to Urban Forestry?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look it up right now. Well, find it.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Terry. And yeah, I would consider it a very preliminary design that has the road to Taco Bell. I'm hoping that we can influence the conversation to have more.
My understanding, it's already been surveyed.
Okay. Go ahead.
Are there any news on the, where the Roseway Theater used to be that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have not gotten, I'm in periodic update, periodic contact with Greg Wood, who's the owner of the theater, who owns the property as well. The last I heard, there's been a lot of delays on getting it prepped where anything else could be done. So there are certain obligations that he had to get it in a state where it could be built. But where that property goes, he wants to sell it. And there are a few potential options, but we don't really know any details. So unfortunately, it's very much in the slow lane, which is disappointing, not only for that specific lot, but just generally the commercial desert that we have there at 72nd and Sandy. And that's something we continue to rack our brains on, how we can work with the city and businesses and building owners to try to fill those in with interesting neighborhood focused businesses. So we're always looking for more input on how we can make that happen. The wishing wall was a great way to get ideas and vision, but now we're just trying to figure out the reality of making that happen. But it's commercial real estate is complicated, as we're finding out.
Just real quick to follow up on that, in case anyone is interested about the urban forestry event tomorrow at McDaniel's High School. They said come on by between 5 PM and 7:30 PM. It's an open agenda, so it sounds like it's kind of just like a kickoff of some sort of getting info, so.
But yeah, it sounds like that might cover more than just the trail project, since that's on
The
the.
trail's just supposed to have a spokesperson there, that's what I understand.
Gotcha, okay,
As one of the people that's there.
okay, great. Anything else, before we close out?
Chris?
Okay.
Can I just put, I'm Dave Monson, I'm on the board, and I'm coordinating the dumpster day cleanup, and if anyone would like to volunteer on the 17th, mark your calendar, and please reach out to the website. Love to have your help.
Do volunteers still get a discount on their dumpster?
That's
They
right.
do.
Actually, thank you
Yeah,
for bringing that up.
Thanks for pointing that out, Dave, because this is our biggest fundraiser of the year and the thing that needs the most volunteers of any of our events. So yeah, more the merrier. Many hands make quick work. And then Sam, you had something?
Yeah, I was just gonna add, I realized I did have one too, I think there's people here from the Rose City Bluff Restoration Project. It's fantastic. I was walking around it this afternoon, and that's a lot of work, and I really appreciate all of the hands. That's the thank you to everybody who's been involved.
Yeah, you're here. Thank you all, and yeah, thanks for coming tonight. It's a great turnout, and do give us feedback on whether these topics really were the ones you were most interested in. And certainly if there were questions that you didn't get answered for the neighborhood association, we're always here, and then we can pass it on, or feel free to reach out to PBOT. And then the next community meeting. Oh, yeah, I mentioned that.
You mentioned.
So yeah, and do come to the next community meeting. We have them every quarter, so the next one will be July. Now I'm gonna forget again.
I'll look it up in the calendar. July 23rd.
July 23rd, yes.
Tuesday.
Yes, yeah, always Tuesday. So with that, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. You'll see you in the neighborhood.
Done really well. Love Val's.
Yeah, actually. But they're called letter. We don't continue letter. Bulletin. Or you mean that?
No, I'd like to do.
Did you sign up for the sign up? Okay, then we'll get you on the.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Okay, let me just.
That'll be.
Recording?
So, that, you know, comes